Welcome to the podcast, Let the Prophet Speak. Today we continue our study of the book of Judges, chapter 8. And we continue reading the story of Gideon. Gideon, in our last podcast in the beginning of chapter 8, was leading his band of soldiers across the Jordan River to chase down the remnants of the Kedemites, being led by the kings of the people of Kedem named Zevach and Salmunna, who were the leaders of the Kedem people. And remember, the Kedem people were the allies of the Midianites and the Amalekites and Amalek, who had Gideon had roundly defeated in the battle we read about in chapter 7. But the remaining Kedem forces apparently had escaped and escaped across the Jordan. And we read the story of how Gideon asked for help from several Israelite towns who refused to help him. And he stated that he was going to, and they were afraid to help him because they still were afraid of the Kedemites, and they didn't want to help Gideon just in case Gideon would end up losing this battle, and then they would have helped the losing side and they would have been in trouble. So Gideon told them, I'm going to take my revenge after I take care of Zevach and Salmunna and the Kedemites. So Gideon is now chasing after them. And we're at verse 10. V'Zevach v'Salmunna b'Karkor. And Zevach and Salmunna were in the place of Karkor. Machaneim himam, and their camp, their soldiers, their army was with them. Kachameshes asar elef, approximately 15,000 men. Kol hanosarim, these were the remnants of Mikol Machne Bnei Kedem, of the entire army of the Kedemites that had been in the original battle, V'Hanoflim, and those that had fallen in the original battle, Mea V'Esrim Aleph, was 120,000 soldiers, Ish Sholev Charav, men with who drew their swords. So in other words, 120 had died, 15,000 managed to escape under Zevach v'Salmunna, and those 15,000 are now in Karkor, and Gideon is coming after them. So Vayal Gideon derech hashechune ba'ahalim, and Gideon went up. Apparently, Karkor was a higher place, so he went up in elevation through the place where the people that live in tents. So I guess like the nomads area where they lived, Mikedem leNovach v'Yogbaha, which was to the east of these places, Nobach and Yogbaha. Vayachet hamachne v'hamachno haya betach, and he struck down the camp, and the camp was betach means that they felt secure. In other words, they weren't watching carefully, they weren't watching closely, and he managed to surprise them there and knocked out the army of Zevach and Salmunna. So Vayanusu Zevach v'Salmunna, the two leaders tried to run away to escape. Vayirdof achareim, he chased them down. Vayilkod et shnei malchei Midian, and eventually Gideon's soldiers caught up to them, and they captured the two kings at Zevach v'at Salmunna v'kol hamachne hechrid. He captured Zevach and Salmunna and the entire camp, of the entire army. He made them frightened and panicked. So in other words, whatever remnants of the army they were panicked and ran helter-skelter all over the place, and the army dissolved itself. Vayashav Gideon ben Yoash min ha-milchama. So now the war is over. The enemies are now defeated. The last remnants of the enemy are defeated. So Gideon, the son of Yoash, now returns on his way back home from the battles, milamale hecharos, from the ascent of Chores, the place. That's where he was coming back from after he finally captured those two remaining leaders. So now, while he's on his way back, he's passing through those towns that he had passed through on his way to the battlefield when he asked them for help and they refused to help him. So at this point, Gideon still has these two leaders alive. He's not executing them, and many of the commentaries feel because at this point he had no reason to kill them because their armies were scattered and they weren't a threat anymore. So he wasn't killing them, he just was holding them captive. That's going to change soon, but we'll get there. So Vayilkad Na'ar Mayanshe Sukkos Vayishalehu. So as he's passing the town of Sukkos, they caught a boy who was from the Sukkos, from that town, and Sukkos was the town which refused to help Gideon. And they found a young boy, and they brought him into the camp, Vayishaleo, and they asked him the following question. They asked him questions about Sukkos and about the people. Vayichtov elav, and he wrote for him, for Gideon, at Sarei Sukkos v'etzekena, a list of all of the leaders of the town of Sukkos, who the elders are. Shivim v'shiva ish. There were 77 men who were the leadership of the town of Sukkos, who were responsible for not helping Gideon when he needed help. Vayavo al anshe Sukkos, he came to the people of Sukkos. Vayomer, and he said, remember the people of Sukkos had said, when you capture Zevach and Salmuna, that's when we'll help you. Right now, you didn't save us yet. Zevach and Salmuna are still out there. But so now he's holding them. He says, look, here they are. Asher cheraftem osi leimar. Remember, you were making fun of me. You were belittling me, saying, Hachaf Zevach v'Salmuna ata b'yadecha. Is Zevach and Salmuna being held already in your hands? Right? Kiniten la'anoshecha yefim lachem, that we should give you your hungry soldiers bread. Are you capture them? You didn't capture them yet. Let's see. You capture them. Well, here they are. Vayikach et ziknei ha'ir, and he took the ziknei ha'ir, the elders, v'yad kotzei hamidbar v'yad tabarkonim, and the thorns and the sharp branches that were growing in the wild areas near the town, and because he had threatened he would strike their bodies with them. Vayoda bohem eit anshe Sukkos, and he literally this means, and through those thorns he let them know their place, or let them know that they had made a very big mistake. And so apparently he whipped them with them or something along those lines, so that to teach them a lesson. So this was their punishment for not supporting Gideon in the time of need. V'et Migdal Penuel Natatz, and then the other town that refused him was the town of Penuel. Remember, and they had this tower, and the people of Penuel, he said, when I come back, I'm going to smash the tower down. So he smashed the tower down as he promised. Vayaharog et anshe ha'ir, and he killed the people of the town. Now, why he killed the people of the town is unclear. It seems the people of Sukkos, he just whipped them. The people of Penuel, he killed. So some understand, the Radak understands this, that they may have defended the tower, and because they defended the tower, he was forced to fight. They refused to back down. So that's one way of understanding it. Other ways of understanding it is that maybe he it could be this tower might have represented an idol worship or something, and that was why they were guilty and deserved death, because they were defending staying with the idol worship. But this is but bottom line is the people of Penuel he killed, and I'm going to go with the understanding that he killed them because it had some relationship to this tower. They were defending the tower, and this tower had some significance, and I would assume that the significance was an idolatrous significance, and that was the reason for the death. Vayomer et el zevach v'al Salmuna, and and then he said, so now he's standing there, and Zevach and Salmuna are there. He says to Zevach and Salmuna, these two captive former kings, Eifo ha'anoshim asher haragtem b'Tavor. So where are those people that you killed in Tavor? Now, exactly, we're not told of this story, but it seems that Zevach and Salmuna, while they were escaping with the remaining troops that survived the battle, apparently passed through Tavor, and they had killed some of Gideon's family members. And apparently it was at this point when Gideon heard about this, And now he goes to Zevach and Tzalmunna, and now he's not going to hold them anymore. Now he wants to kill them because of what they did, because they killed his family. So he says to Zevach and Tzalmunna, where are those people that you killed in Tavor? In other words, to see if they would they admit what they did, how would they do it? And then there's various ways to read these next verses, but I'm going to read it as if with the following, as if Zevach and Tzalmunna are taunting Gideon. They're very unrepentant captives. There's others that read this a little differently, but I think this fits all the verses that we're about to read the best and is closest to the meaning of the text. Vayomru, so they answered him, Kamocha kamohem, just like you is just like them. Echad, you both have the same countenance. Kitoar b'nei hamelech, you all look like these princes. You all look like the sons of the king. In other words, we killed them, and just like and they look just like you, right? So you all look like the sons of the king, and they're treating Gideon as if he is a king, which is important because soon the people are going to try to make Gideon a king, but we'll get there shortly. But right now they look upon Gideon as if Gideon was a king, and they say that your brothers look just like you. So in other words, just like we killed them, and we killed them just like you. Vayomer achai b'nei imihem, and he says to them, those people that you killed, those were my brothers. Those were the sons of my mother. They are my brothers. Chai Adonai, by literally that means as God lives. Luha is a way of swearing. Luha chayisem otam. Lo harakti eschem. Had you not killed them, had you allowed them to live when you passed through their town, I would not have killed you. I had no reason to execute you, but now that you have just admitted that you killed my brothers, now you are going to be executed. Vayomer liyeter b'choro, and because they were mocking and taunting him, at least this is the way I understand the story, because they were mocking and taunting him, he says to his child, to Yeser, his oldest child, Kum harogotam, go kill them. So, in other words, I'm not even going to bother killing you, executing you myself. I'm going to ask a child to do it. V'lo sholaf hanar charbo, but the child was too scared. Ki yareh, he was too afraid to pull out his sword. So, because he was just very timid and shy, and he just didn't have the guts to do it, so to speak. Ki odenu nar, the verse says, because he was still a boy. So Vayomer Zevach v'Tzalmunna, so Zevach and Tzalmunna, the captives who are about to be executed, then continue on their taunting and say, Kum ata ufagabanu. Why don't you do it yourself? You get up and kill us. Kicha ish gevuraso, because literally that means because his strength is like a man. In other words, be a man. Man up. Do it yourself. So why are you sending your kid to do it? Man up and do it yourself. Vayakam Gideon vayarag et Zevach and Tzalmunna. So Gideon immediately got up and struck down and killed Zevach and Tzalmunna. Vayikach et hasaharonim asher b'tzavarei gmalehem. And he took the saharonim, which is it's like a metal, like an adornment that was hanging around the necks of their camels, that they had around the necks of their camels because they were royalty. So he took those, and that was and he took them as booty from the war, and that was a symbol of their leadership. So by taking that, he was showing that he was, that their leadership was over and they were gone. So we'll stop here. This is the end of 8b. We'll continue chapter 8 with 8c in the next podcast, and then complete the story of Gideon. Thank you so much for studying together. Looking forward to studying the rest of this beautiful book together.